Hi, this is Chris, and today we're going to continue our series of reviewing other games. And today we're going to look at Dark Gothic by Flying Frog Productions and Jason C. Hill. And this is a deck building re-implementation of one of Flying Frog's other games called A Touch of Evil, which was one of my personal favorites. This is still set in the same universe and it uses a lot of the same characters, but it's now in a smaller format, in a deck builder format, whereas A Touch of Evil could get as large as this table if you had happened to find all three expansions. Now, I really liked A Touch of Evil, and I will be getting the 10th anniversary edition when it comes out. But how does a deck building version of it hold up? How does it feel if it's condensed? Does it maintain that same feeling of exploration that A Touch of Evil had? Let's find out. One of the first things you're going to do in Dark Gothic is you're going to choose your character, and there are plenty of characters to choose from. Each of those characters are going to be built up with a set of stats: combat, cunning, spirit, and honor, representing one of the different resources that you will use in the game. For instance, this character here starts with 5 combat, which means they're going to have 5 of these starting combat cards in their deck. Cunning, he has 3, so he will have 3 of the starting cunning, 2 of the starting spirit, and he also has 2 honor cards. Now, what's nice about honor cards is they are a wild card, a wild resource, but they also let you draw a card. And you will shuffle the deck that you've just created and draw 6 cards for their starting hand. In addition to setting up the characters, you're also going to set up the villains. The villains are made up of 3 different levels, 3 different tiers, level 1, 2, and 3. And you will choose a level 3, a level 2, and a level 1 villain, and stack the level 3 on the bottom, the level 2 on top of that, and the level 1 on the very top like we have here. And your goal is to defeat all 3 of these villains in order to win. You're also going to set out this permanent minion. Minions are the creatures that you fight or that you attack in the game, and they give you bonuses. They get added to your deck in order to provide you with resources, and so on. Now, this one is nice because what it does is it allows you to cull your deck. It lets you get rid of cards that you don't need. So, for instance, if you want to fight this thing, you would have to play a combat card, a spirit, and a cunning, a resource, one of each. And if you do, you defeat it. Now, this is a special minion that always stays out. It doesn't go anywhere. But it lets you get rid of or to remove a card, not only one that you've played, but you can also get rid of a non-minion, non-global effect card from the marketplace, the market row. In addition to setup, we place out these Dark Secrets cards. Sometimes you may be required to take a Dark Secret. What that does is it puts a Dark Secret in your discard pile, and when you reshuffle your deck after it's empty, that Dark Secret is now in your deck, and it represents something that you don't want the other players to know about you. And when you draw that card, you have to instantly discard it back to this stack and take a Shocking Discovery. And the Shocking Discovery is an event or an attachment for the villain. It's a bad thing you do not wish to have. For setup, you're also going to set up this market row. You'll lay out 6 cards, and you're going to get possibly events, minions, gear, allies that you can purchase, just like in other deck building games, to add to your deck to make your deck stronger. And you purchase cards pretty simply by looking in the top corner and seeing what resource is required. For example, if I want to defeat this minion, I have to use 3 of the cunning. So I have to generate 3 cunning resources and then apply them to this minion. But what's nice is this minion then goes into my discard pile that I can then draw later, and it gives me a free resource. It's a colorless. It can be any color. This requires 6 of any color. But it must be the same color. This takes 2 of the cunning and 1 of any other color, and so on. 4 spirit, 2 of any color. This one has to be 5 combat and 1 spirit. And as we mentioned with the villains, they also require those resources to defeat. This one is the Black Hound of Norfolk, and it requires 4 spirit, 2 cunning, 2 combat. But it also has a global effect. What's a global effect? I'm glad you asked. A global effect applies to everyone playing. See, unlike Touch of Evil, the board game, the deck building game was built mainly as a competitive game, which is why you'll notice in the bottom of these cards you're going to see these numbers. Those are victory points. The person with the most victory points at the end wins. I don't play the competitive version. I play the cooperative, or more often I'd play this solo, which you can do. This also has a fight effect, as do some other cards. The fight effect says whenever you defeat this card, gain that effect. And in this case it says fight, draw 3 cards. So if when you beat this character, or you beat this villain, you would instantly draw 3 cards. In the market row, you might occasionally come across a mystery effect. Unless it's set up, that mystery effect takes effect as soon as it's played. The instant that card is overturned into the marketplace, that mystery effect happens. Now, like other deck builders, they have a card as a common card that when you purchase it for 3, whatever their resource is, it gives you 2 of that resource. What I like about Dark Gothic is that it gives you a choice. It actually provides you with 3 different options. For instance, it says Brilliant Deduction, spend 3 of any resource, and it'll give you a card that gives you 2 of the cunning. This one will give you 2 combat, this one will give you 2 spirit, so you can actually tailor your deck to play the way you wish, or to tailor it to the monsters and minions that are out. So when you begin your first turn, you draw your, well, first thing on the first player's turn, they have to roll an omen die for every minion that's in the market row. Now, if the person rolls a skull, that minion goes to a place called the Shadows. The Shadows, again, is how the villain wins. Whenever there's 10 cards in this arbitrary discard pile called the Shadows, the villain wins. So if this had been a skull, this minion would go into the Shadows, and that would be 1 towards the villain's victory. But we didn't roll a skull, we rolled a 2, I believe. And on this omen die, there are 1, 2 skulls. Okay. Alright, so we would draw our 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you play them and generate your resources just like in other deck builders. And I managed to generate 4 combat, 1 of the cunning, and 1 of the spirit. Then I would look here and see what I can purchase, what I can defeat. So, nothing with 4 combat, but this one here has 3 of any color. So I can take this 3 combat and say I'm going to apply it to murder. And murder would then go into my discard pile, and when I draw it, it says draw a card, then roll an omen die. If you roll a skull, discard a card. But if you were playing competitive, it's worth 3 victory points. Now, as soon as you pull a card from the market, you instantly refill it. Now this one says Old Axe, and it's worth 2. I can't afford that on this one, but what I do have is 1 of each resource. So I can take a look over here at the Hungry Dead and say, maybe I want to get rid of 1 of these cards that I've played this turn. If I do, I just say I'm going to use these 3, defeat the Hungry Dead, and then remove 1 of these cards from the game. It would go back in the box. And once that's finished, discard all of the cards played. draw a hand of 6 again. And then the play passes to the next player. So that's Dark Gothic in a nutshell. You go back and forth between players, or again, if you're solo, you play one or more characters, and keep going until the villains are defeated. Now, as I said before, much like with this and Legendary and similar games like that where it's should be cooperative, but it's initially competitive, I'm not a fan of the competitive parts, so I don't play it. That's not saying that other people won't enjoy it. They don't enjoy going for high scores against each other, but that's not for me. That's not what I would play this for. I played this game for the atmosphere, for the strategy of how am I going to tweak my deck in order to best defeat these main villains, and what are some of the cool items I can get. It's a lot of nostalgia for the board game, but it's also fun, but and it's a little more compact than that. Would I recommend this? Yeah, I would. It's been in my collection through a lot of the different purges that I've done, because I like to purge the collection from time to time just to make sure I thin out what I really don't play. This one hasn't been even on the block. It's not even been considered. And this main deck that you saw is only about half the size. I left almost half of the deck in the box just because it was pretty high. So there's a lot of content here. There's a lot to do. And they have, I believe, one big expansion, Colonial Horrors, and 4 smaller expansions that I have in here. I also got I ordered a couple of their colored Omen dice just for the sake of I wanted them. They're not necessary. The extra ones, it does come with one, and that's perfectly serviceable to play the game. You don't need the other dice, but I just wanted them. So yeah, this is one I would definitely keep in the collection. It's one I'm not going to be getting rid of anytime soon, and much like when they do the 10th anniversary of Touch of Evil, I will be buying that, of course. If they ever put out any more expansions to this, hint hint, I'll buy them in a second. I wouldn't even think twice about it. I really do enjoy this. Alright, that's all we have for now. We appreciate you taking the time to spend with us to go over this game, to take a look at it, and if you like the game, please go pick it up. Encourage them to make more. If you like these videos, hit the old like, share, subscribe thing, and so we can keep going, so we know that what we're doing is something you would want to see. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Our next video should be the Dracula video for the Slaughterville 2, which will be going on to Kickstarter hopefully within the next couple of months, just so we can get some buzz going. And other than that, have fun.